Hi, I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Chelsea Lipford-Wolf.
Thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a like and a comment.
And be sure to share with a friend, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified of new videos.
Thanks and enjoy the show.
This house is getting a whole new paint job. This week, we'll share with you some tips on how to do it the right way.
Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Get ready for a half hour full of projects, tips, and ideas to help you improve your home.
Welcome to the show this week. Now, this historic home that's over 100 years old is undergoing a complete exterior paint job. Now, over the years, it's had a lot of paint jobs. Some of them were done very well. The last one was done very poorly. So we'll show you how to properly prepare exterior wood surfaces like this so that you can paint them properly and the paint job will last a long time. We'll share with you a number of great professional painters' tips along the way. Also, we'll look at a number of paint additives that are available to add to your paint so that it'll last a lot longer. Now, if you're thinking of painting your house yourself or you're going to hire the job done, we've got some great information for you on this week's show. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. Now, the guys that have the task of sanding this whole big house have a pretty tough job, especially today. It's over 95 degrees, high humidity, which means the heat index factor over 105. So they need to be very careful about drinking plenty of water, and you can see why I'm over here on the shady side. But to be able to really feather sand everything like we have here will ensure that the new paint job will last a long time. Now, it is very important to sand, and earlier today we talked with Gary McDade, the paint contractor on this project, and he explains why. Well, Gary, you've got a great start on all the sanding here. I know you started this project a few days ago, started out with a little pressure washing, huh?
Yeah, sure did, and it was in pretty bad shape, but it blew a lot of the loose paint off. It's really helping us out on this sanding part of it.
Now, what did you use with the pressure washing as far as any type of detergent or anything?
We just used chlorine. It was mainly just to get all the mildew off. It's mildew pretty bad.
Okay, all right. So now you're sanding a lot of this paint off. I know you're not completely stripping it off, but tell us what you're trying to achieve with doing as much sanding as you're doing.
We're just trying to get all the loose paint off, get back down to where the paint is still in good shape, plus putting a surface profile on it for the next coat to stick very well.
And you're using a lot of disc sanders. That really does speed up the process,
Yes, it does, and we're using the big 7-inch disc, and it covers a lot more territory and speeds up the time.
Okay, now, after everything's sanded, and I guess you've been on this, what, about 3 days on the sanding?
That's correct.
And so I hope to finish it up today.
Yeah,
so
I hope so.
I think everybody else wants you to as well. Now, after that, what will be the next step?
We're going to put a full coat of primer on it, a good oil-based exterior primer, but instead of just the basic primer, we're going to go with the stain killer because there was so much mildew on the house and so much exposed wood. That way we should cut down on the mildew problem later.
Okay, all right. Now, I know, unfortunately, the homeowners had this painted by another painter a couple years ago. They apparently did not do the level of preparation that you're doing.
No, very little preparation. That's why there was so much delamination on the coating system, which we're looking at today.
Okay. Now, this is an older house. I know you have to be cautious of the possibility of lead paint. How do you handle it in a situation like this?
Well, this worked out pretty good because the homeowners had this house completely stripped down to the bare wood about 15 years ago, so you know, it made it all right for us, but we still test just to be sure.
Okay, and that's a good thing to remember if you're working on an older house and you're doing any type of sanding like this. It's a good idea to have a laboratory in your area check for any lead content just to be on the safe side. Now, fortunately, that wasn't a problem here. You'll be able to go ahead and prime it, and then after the priming, I know there's a lot of other preparation that has to be done.
That's correct. We got a lot of caulking, a lot of puttying to do, tightening up around all the windows. Should help them keep some of this cool air and warm air out in the summer and the winter.
All right, great. And that's very important. Any of the levels of preparation that you'll do before a paint job is going to make it last a lot longer. And like Gary said, that includes a lot of caulking. When the sanding is all complete, the primer goes on to seal the bare wood and give the later layers of paint something to hold on to. Next, all the gaps and cracks are filled in with a latex caulk. Now, this will not only keep out moisture that would cause the wood to decay, it will seal the home from unwanted drafts, and it just makes the final paint job look even better. For an older house like this, The wood windows and doors are also a major concern, so the guys replace any damaged glazing around the old single pane windows. Speaking of wood doors and wood windows, in order to keep them from getting stuck while you're painting your windows and doors, make sure you move them a little bit while the paint's still wet. Then after a few minutes, move them a little bit more, keep them moving a little bit so that you're not ending up with any stuck windows or doors. That can be a real hassle. Now, one area of preparation that the painters are really concentrating on is the floor of the front porch here. Now, this is a tongue and groove treated deck that was put down, probably 10 or 12 years ago, and the paint never really stuck to it according to the homeowners. So the painters are trying to strip off most of the old finish. They'll come back after it's nice and clean and dry, put a coat of primer, and then 2 coats of a porch and deck enamel on it, which is a very hard paint that'll hold up to all the foot traffic that takes place on a porch like this. Also, we'll have to have our carpenters go around and surface nail a few of the boards to pull them back down like they should be. Now stay with us, because after this simple solution segment, we'll take a look at many paint additives that are available to make your paint job even more successful.
It's time to pick up a few tricks of the trade from Danny and home repair expert Joe Truini in this week's Simple Solution. Brought to you by DuPont Tyvek. Build it once, build it right.
Well, Joe, how did the caulking job go?
Actually, it went really well, Dan. I only ended up using about half a tube.
Well, you may as well throw it away. I've never seen a method around that will allow you to use a caulking tube more than once.
Well, what happens, of course, is air gets in there and dries up the caulk that's in the nozzle, and you can't get the caulk out of the tube because you have a plug of caulk in there.
Right.
Some people have tried putting a nail in there, or even twisting on a wire nut like this, but it never fits, and the air eventually leaks out.
No, it never worked for me. That always got bumped off at some point.
You could try just taping it with some duct tape, but again, if you don't seal out every little bit of air, the caulk that's in the nozzle will harden, and you'll never be able to use it. So you do have to toss it out.
I'm sure you have a method to solve all this.
That's why I'm here. I've found a combination of techniques work really well. Take a nail, longest nail you can find. This is a 16-penny nail. And push it all the way in as far as it'll go, and then take a piece of duct tape and wrap it around there.
Okay, so you're doubling up the methods, the different methods there.
And there's a reason why you use 2 methods. And the other trick is after you get this little flap folded over. And that works about as well as anything I've found. Now the great thing about this is when you go to reuse it and you peel off the tape, even if a little air has gotten in there and hardened this caulk in the nozzle, you can pull out the nail, and at least you have an opening where you can get some of the caulk out.
So you still have that passageway right through the middle.
It works great.
Well, it only makes sense because some of the caulking's costing $6 or $7 a tube these days,
Right.
So it really makes sense to use every bit of it. Welcome back to the show. Well, our paint crew's really moving along, and they've completed all of their sanding, caulking, scraping, everything involved in the preparation of the exterior of this home, and have completed applying 1 complete coat of oil primer on the exterior. Now they're ready for the first of 2 top coats of paint they'll put on to really make this paint job last as long as it should. Now, in the past, the homeowners have had a real problem with mildew growing on the outside of their home. This is a very humid climate that we're in this particular area of the country, and requires quite a bit of pressure washing every 2 or 3 years in order to really keep the mildew off the house. Well, our painters are trying a little something to help the homeowners out with a paint additive that's a mildewcide that should help to kill and control the mildew that's so prone to grow on areas like this. Now, this only costs $2 or $3 per gallon, but can really help in the long run. Now, there's a number of other paint additives that can help you on your next paint job. There are paint additives for almost any problem you may have around your home. Now, for example, if you have an area outside your home where you're seeing a lot of spiders or mosquitoes, or even worse, wood-destroying carpenter bees, there's a paint additive that'll help you here. It's an insecticide paint additive. Takes about 1 ounce per gallon. You mix this up, and it'll help control any of those areas, because any insect that comes in contact with the paint after you have this additive will kill it up to 7 years. So you may consider that. Now, everybody wants to have a safer home, and in the event of a fire, to keep fire from spreading so rapidly from one room to the next, you may try this paint additive. It's a fire retardant. It actually creates a burn-resistant surface on, say, your walls inside your home to prevent that rapid spreading of a fire from one room to the next. Now, one thing that's very offensive to a lot of people, the smell of interior paint. When you're having a room painted, sometimes it's hard to stay in the house. Well, now you can turn that smell into, say, tropical wind, ocean breeze, or a variety of other scents that are available. This is an additive you mix right in the gallon of paint, and it continues to give you a nice pleasant smell in the room for quite a while after you've completed your paint job. Now, you know, sometimes you just want to slow the drying time down of a paint. Say on a hot day like today, when you're using a latex paint, it dries very quickly and can create a lot of brush strokes. This will actually condition the paint, not thin it out, but actually conditions the latex paint so that it slows it down and will prevent a lot of the brush marks or lapping that can occur. Also, this is for latex, this is for oil, if you really want to slow that oil paint down, and again, to create a nice smooth surface like interior trim inside your home. Now, sometimes you have a short time frame that you need to complete a project and you need to speed the paint up. That's where the Japan dryer comes in. Now, this is only good for oil-based paint, but this would be perfect if you had a set of cabinets inside your home that you're trying to paint very quickly. This might speed up the whole process. So there's a lot of ways you can change the paint that you're using so that it works out better and you end up with a better paint job. Now, stay with us. Next is our best new product of the week.
Now let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out this week's best new product, brought to you by the Home Depot.
Whether you're camping or tailgating at the next big ball game, it's nice to have a grill on wheels. And this one's a nice one from Charbroil called the Fire and Ice. Now, a few of the features include the carrying handle that also doubles as a shelf. That'll really be handy when you're out there grilling. And this is a gas-powered grill, and it will go for 2 hours cooking time on a 1-pound LP tank. Now, you may notice that it appears a little low for cooking, but with just a little push of the button, and it goes right up to a little easier level to cook. Now, inside, you have a few of the accessories that you're able to hang right on the side like this. Then, once you've had a good successful day of cooking, the cleanup is real easy by just taking out the grill surface and cleaning it, putting it right back in. So that makes it real handy. A few of the other little features, you have bottle opener here. You have a level right on the front to get it nice and level. Also, you have an indicator for the temperature of the grill itself. Then, after you've worked up that thirst, then you can go right to the cooler. That's a 10-gallon cooler, and even has some places to set your drinks after you get them out of the cooler. So this really is very handy, a lot of nice little features, and the Fire and Ice retails for a little bit less than $300. This house is looking a lot better now that it's getting a fresh coat of paint. Now, it's been about 3 weeks since they've started this job, and to tell you the truth, they should already be finished at this point, but their progress has been hampered by several days of bad weather that occurred a couple weeks ago. Well, the last few days has been beautiful, and Gary, our painter, tells us they're really moving along now. Hey, Gary, your guys are making a lot of progress. Looking good around here.
Yeah, we sure are, Danny. We're trying to get this first finish coat on today so we can spray the final coat tomorrow.
Okay, now you're brush painting all of this. I thought you were going to spray all of it. What happened?
We were going to do that, Danny, but we decided since this house was in such rough shape, so many cracks and crevices, we decided to go ahead and prime it with a good brush coat and put the first finish coat on. Just to try to get it in all these cracks and crevices real good.
Now, with a sprayer, though, you can turn it up as much as you want and get as much paint on there. Why are you brushing instead of just using the airless and maybe putting a little extra paint on?
Well, a lot of times when you spray, a lot of the paint just sits right on the surface. It doesn't really get in all these little tough spots to get into that you could use a brush on. Plus, a lot of times you'll get too much paint on there trying to get that heavy coat, and it just it'll start dripping and sagging and running on you.
Yeah, you don't want that at all.
No, it just creates more work.
Okay, but I know you'll break out that airless when you get to this stuff here, because that's almost impossible to paint with a brush.
Oh yeah, we'll get an airless. That way we can get all these little crooks and crannies, because you have so many little inside and outside angles, and to keep from getting overspray on the brick, we'll just get a spray shield, sit it right in here, and we can just spray right up to it, be done with it.
Well, now this whole house seems like a good candidate for spraying, because all of the trim, the corner boards, fascia soffit, everything is the same color. That's the kind of house to spray, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely, especially on the final coat.
Right. Now, oversprays can be a big problem, though. I mean, you guys are pros and use paint shields and know when to spray and when not to spray, but homeowners have to be pretty careful if they're thinking of spraying.
Yeah, you really got to keep a close eye on the weather, and you know, you got to watch out for neighbors and stuff. And as close as these houses are in this area, you know, they could get overspray on their vehicles, and it could create a very very big problem quickly.
Yeah, well, I think we've all heard those stories about someone saving a little money on spray equipment and ending up having to paint the neighbor's car.
That's correct.
Well, Gary, you still have a lot of work to do.
Oh, yes.
Spraying on the final coat really does speed up the process, but it does call for some safety precautions, namely a respirator and eye protection for the painter. Long, consistent strokes with the sprayer made parallel to the wall surface ensures even coverage and will minimize the possibility of any drips. For homeowners trying this the first time, it's important not to assume this is as easy as Gary makes it look. He's been at this for a lot of years. Be sure to practice first on a piece of scrap wood or an area that is less visible. Well, I guess you can see painting an exterior of a home like this is a fairly large project. Keep in mind, Gary and his crew have been out on this job for over a month, working full days every time the rain would allow them to, with up to 4 painters working. So that's quite a bit of work, and you need to keep that in mind, because if you're like most homeowners, you'll only have the weekends to work on the exterior of your home. So to make it more manageable, there's several things that you can do. Now, first of all, if you have a brick home, all you're going to be painting is just the eaves and maybe a few windows and doors. But if you have a home of this size, here's a couple things you can do. First of all, consider hiring someone else to do the bulk of the work, and then you can save cost by maybe doing the pressure washing at the start of the job and then cleaning all of the windows at the end of the job. That'll save you some money. Or you can make it more manageable by doing only one side of the house at a time. You can just set up on one side, go ahead and do your pressure washing, sanding, priming, and painting, and you'll get that sense of accomplishment before you move to the next side. And you may want to start at the rear of the house, because it's a lot easier to work your way to the front, getting that sense of accomplishment, and then finishing off the project right in the front where all the neighbors will be able to see and admire your work. Now, whatever you do, make sure that you're doing the project right. Consider some of the tips from the pro behind the counter at the paint store. They can give you some ideas that can save you some time and money. And more than anything, make sure you do the work very safely.
Let's head outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley. Brought to you by TimberTech Composite Decking. Less work, more life.
Tricia, I just love the garden tips where you're using just regular household products to solve a problem. Now, what's up with the rubbing alcohol and the water that you have here?
Well, this week I have a great tip for you to kill some of these creepy crawlies that infest our houseplants, such as aphids and mealybug and whitefly and red spider mite.
Okay.
All we're going to do is take a half a cup of rubbing alcohol and add it to approximately a quart of water.
Okay, all right.
Now, once you do that, you want to spray it in a spray bottle, put it in a spray bottle.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do, that's fine,
Okay.
is we're going to spray just one leaf of our infested plant. And the reason we do that is we have to test to see if it can handle this solution.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of houseplants get pretty delicate, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of them are very delicate. And this way, as I said, just wait for about a day, and if it has handled that solution, then you can spray the rest of the plant. And I definitely suggest you do that outside.
Okay, all right.
Now, I have another tip for you, Danny, and that is if the whole plant is not infested, there is a very easy way to help control these bugs that just are so creepy. And I do this a lot at home, and that is use the rubbing alcohol. And by the way, rubbing alcohol, not the denatured alcohol.
Oh, they don't like that.
No, they don't like that at all. And then what you do is literally topically apply the straight rubbing alcohol to these bugs, and it will knock them dead.
A paint job can make a big difference on the look of a home. Well, that's it for this week's show, but I hope we've been able to share some information with you that'll help you on your next paint job, whether you do it yourself or hire a professional. Just knowing more about the process should make you feel a little more comfortable. Well, I'm Danny, and we'll see you next week.
These homeowners are giving up a bedroom, but they're getting a great master bathroom. Join us next week. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around, and continue the home improving fun.